We're just hours removed from former President Donald Trump's visit to Wisconsin, his message to supporters in Prairie du Chien, plus Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign rally support in Madison as she lays out her economic agenda.
No matter where you live and really no matter who you are in this country, people know that when Donald Trump was in the White House, they had more money in their pocket.
And Republican National Committee co-chair Lara Trump, how she says the Trump campaign is trying to engage undecided voters in Wisconsin.
I believe by the time we are done with this campaign, she will be in the lead.
Plus, Democratic National Committee Chair Jamie Harrison, why he believes Kamala Harris's policies are resonating with voters. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dario Fair. Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump made competing stops on the campaign trail this week to appeal to voters on immigration and border security policies. Harris making her first trip to the southern border on Friday, and Trump in Prairie du Chien on Saturday to deliver remarks on how he says illegal immigration is impacting the Midwest. Trump devoted most of his remarks to undocumented immigrants, citing a recent case of a Venezuelan gang member assaulting a mother and daughter that happened in the area. Republicans have falsely claimed that the Vice President Harris's border policies prompted the suspect's release, but there's no evidence that the suspect was ever in custody in Dane County or he was released back into the community.
These migrants, they don't commit crimes like us. No. They make our criminals look like babies. These are stone cold killers. They'll walk into your kitchen, they'll cut your throat.
The former president attacking Harris, who visited the southern border for the first time in her 2024 campaign.
Kamala is mentally impaired. Kamala Harris can never be forgiven for her erasing our border, and she must never be allowed to become President of the United States.
Republicans have coined rhetoric around migrant crime to define criminal activity committed by undocumented immigrants spreading across the country, as immigration and border security remain a top issue for voters. But numerous studies have shown that undocumented immigration has not increased violent crime rates. 2024 crime data shows that cities like Chicago, Philadelphia, and Denver, receiving the most migrants, saw a drop in crime levels overall. Trump's claims that these violent crimes are more prominent in sanctuary cities is also false, as a Department of Justice report found that there's no evidence currently showing that the percentage of authorized or unauthorized immigrants in cities has impacted their homicide rates or cases of theft. Joining me on the show this morning is Lara Trump, Republican National Committee co-chair and former President Donald Trump's daughter-in-law. Lara, thank you so much for being here this morning.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Of course. Former President Donald Trump was in Wisconsin yesterday. Is there any concern that Trump's tactics to link immigration to violent crime could impact his support amongst Hispanic and Latino voters? This is obviously going to be a critical voting bloc across key swing states like Wisconsin, Nevada, and Arizona.
Yeah, well, I think what you've seen is with Hispanic voters across the country, you've seen Donald Trump actually trending up, especially if you look back at 2016 and 2020 and his support. And I think it's because no matter where you live and really no matter who you are in this country, people know that when Donald Trump was in the White House, they had more money in their pocket, their dollar went farther, you had less crime, you had a secure southern border, and you had things like peace agreements instead of wars breaking out around the world. And that's really the unique opportunity, I think, that we as Americans have right now, is that you can compare two presidents or two presidencies in terms in the White House. You have Kamala Harris, who obviously is vice president, but has been there for 3.5 years. And you have Donald Trump, who served as president for 4 years. And I think that people want to get back to the time with Donald Trump in the White House because his policies worked. And you don't have to love everything he said. You don't have to love maybe everything he tweeted. But you do have to acknowledge that your life was better off as a citizen of this country when he was in that White House.
Lara, I want to stay on that conversation of broadening the base. What is the campaign's approach to engaging men, black men specifically, more broadly black voters, Hispanic voters, as we are starting to see a slight shift amongst those groups leaning more conservative?
Yeah, listen, I think that Donald Trump is a very unique candidate. Even though he was president for 4 years, he really still never considers himself to be a politician. And that's why you've seen him go out and really go into communities that Republicans traditionally have not. You think back to the rally he held in the Bronx in New York, where he had 25,000 people show up for that. He did a rally in North Philly. He's been in Atlanta, Chicago. Donald Trump is not afraid to go out and ask for people to vote for him. And again, remind people about how their life was when he was in the White House, the things he did for this country, the great accomplishments, the things he did for people's communities all across America. And so I think that the strategy really is engaging with voters, maybe in a bit of a different way. We do have a grassroots effort underway right now via the campaign and the RNC. We call it Trump Force 47. But it's about allowing people to engage with folks who might be those low propensity voters, people who don't vote in every single election, but maybe leaning Republican and maybe leaning conservative. And a lot of those people are folks who are former Democrats. We are out there, we're knocking doors, we know how to identify these people and how to talk with them. And I think, we take our cues from Donald Trump, who, again, is not afraid to go anywhere in this country and ask people to vote for him.
Polling in Wisconsin shows that 12% of voters are still undecided. You talked a little bit about this earlier in the conversation. With less than 40 days until the election, how is the Trump campaign engaging this group of voters that could be decisive in such a critical battleground state?
I just think, we need to remind people, again, what their life was like with Donald Trump in the White House. Remind people the policies that he put in place and why those were so beneficial for every single American. And I think oftentimes whenever you hear people say, well, I don't know if I want to vote for Donald Trump, it's not because of how he was as president. It's more of a personality conversation you tend to have with people. And what I always tell people is, look, you are not looking to have somebody to be in your wedding party here. You're looking to hire a person for a job.
Trump's false claims of Haitian migrants in Springfield, Ohio, eating cats and dogs have been debunked by local officials, but the former president and Republicans are still carrying that narrative. Is the campaign concerned at all that this could hurt their support to win over those still undecided and independent voters?
Well, look, I think illegal immigration is a huge issue in this country right now. And, when you talk about Springfield, it's directly coming from people who live in those communities that those reports were coming from. But no matter if it's Springfield, Ohio, no matter if it's Waukesha, Wisconsin, or you go down to the border states. I just went down to Yuma, Arizona, and actually saw the southern border and how porous it is and how we are just processing people into this country instead of, having a secure southern border. It's impacting our communities all across America, and I think that is the bigger conversation to have.
Lara, I want to pivot slightly here. Why has Trump declined a second debate with Vice President Kamala Harris? He was very adamant about pushing for additional dates prior to the September 10th presidential debate. Is this indicative of his debate performance?
Well, I think you saw Donald Trump with a knockout punch on June 27th for Joe Biden in that debate. I mean, it completely ended Joe Biden's run for the presidency because Donald Trump did perform so well. I think that ABC News debate was really a disservice to the American people. We didn't get to hear truly from either candidate in terms of how they would be as president of the United States or plans for the future of this country. It seemed like a bit of a 3-on-1 attack on Donald Trump. But look, I think the people of this country know who Donald Trump is. They have lived with him now for 9 years in this political arena. We had him for 4 years as president. And he goes out and connects with the American people in many different ways. You see him doing rallies across the country. You see him doing podcasts. You see him doing interviews constantly and doing press conferences. Now, we haven't seen that from Kamala Harris. She has yet to do a press conference. She does a handful of media interviews here and there, but we really should hear a lot more from her. And I don't think that debate did anything for anyone in this country in terms of swaying their vote or giving us a real clear picture into these two candidates.
Presidential nominees have traditionally had a final exchange in a nationally televised October debate after the vice presidential nominees debate. Is the campaign not concerned that Trump's running mate, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, will have the final say on the debate stage before November?
I think the debate between J.D. Vance and Tim Walz is going to be really great for the Trump-Vance ticket, because I think you're going to hear why this is a ticket that people are going to want to vote for. Look, Donald Trump, in choosing a running mate, wanted to pick someone who had the same policy standpoints as he does, who could step in and run for 8 more years after his departure from the White House. And that truly is J.D. Vance. He's an America First candidate. He loves this country. He really is kind of the epitome of the American dream. Started with very little, is now a United States Senator, and is the running mate for Donald Trump to be vice president. And I think that's very impressive. I think he's going to have a great debate performance. And I think, you know, if that's the last that we hear on a debate stage, that is okay with us. I think he's going to perform very well, and I think we're all looking forward to October 1st and hearing that debate between those two.
Lara Trump, Republican National Committee co-chair and former President Donald Trump's daughter-in-law. Laura, thank you so much for being here with us this morning.
Thank you.